All right, good morning, everyone. We are so glad you are here. We are admitting all of you now. Thank you for joining us.
We better mute that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead and mute yourself. And we're going to start in about 30 seconds. Thank you so much for joining us for our final day of National Park Camp. We've had a great time and we have a good show for you today, a camp show for you today. So just make sure that you do the little mute button. We will also try to do that when we can. But we are glad that you're here and we're glad to celebrate day 3 with you. So,
Daisha, I just invited Ranger Jen to join us, so she's in here with us now too.
I like that. I see her. This is great. All right, Susan, would you drive to start off?
I would be happy to. I hope everybody had a great evening. Here we are. Are we going to take a look at our campsites first, Daisha?
That would be great. So we noticed that we had a few new pictures added to the campsite, which was exciting to see. So we're going to look at those now. I think if we can go to Thomas and
Riley, maybe?
Is that maybe?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Riley and then Thomas and the other sibling in Thomas's house too. So Riley, do you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about yesterday? What happened? What did you do?
I ate my fruit kebab and made the lashing.
Did you
design for the climbing?
Okay. What about yesterday? Did you do the camp pie? I lost your voice there, Riley.
I ate it too fast and nobody could take it.
What flavor did you use, Riley?
I used boysenberries.
Ooh, nice. That wasn't on our list, boysenberry. Well, thank you. That's okay. I can understand eating it too fast. Let's go to Thomas.
All right, Thomas.
Thomas, are you on today? Not sure he's on, but I know he's got his constellation up. He created his pie yesterday. And also, let's see, I have one more that was connected to Thomas. So let me pull that one up really quickly.
Oh, it was Henry.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So Henry also had that. And do you notice that he's using the clay and the sugar there? So he did the caving science experiment with us because I see that little dropper there. Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And
anyone else?
Nigel sent some pictures in too.
Who did?
Nigel.
Oh, Nigel.
Nigel, are you with us? You want to tell us about your pictures?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I do. That is the lashing thing. I didn't actually do that. My grandpa did that, but my mom just took a picture of it and uploaded it on there.
I like it.
So, and then that's my half-eaten campfire pie.
I love that, Nigel.
I think everybody liked those pies. Not many of them hung around for very long.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, thanks for sharing that.
Krista's got some pictures in there too. Krista, do you want to unmute and tell us about your pictures?
Yeah. So this the one with the suction cup is my invention.
Tell us about this.
Can you make that bigger, Susan?
I sure can.
Oh, wow.
We used some of the things we used just the day before yesterday, and tied it to a suction cup. And you put it on your hand, and it sucks to the mountain.
So that was what you were going to do to help the climbers climb up the mountains?
Yeah. That's for El Capitan. I love that. I can't wait to share that with Ranger Anastasia. We will send her that so she can look at that, okay?
Okay.
Good job, kiddo. Good job. So it looks like Stacia and Aaliyah have continued to add to theirs, and so did Cody and Brinley. Should we quickly show those real quick?
Great.
So here's Stacia making her pie, it looks like. And then her sister Aaliyah was making, oh, Aaliyah, is that a grape jelly pie?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it sure does. And then back this way real quick, here's, let's see, Cody with his pie and Miss Brinley with all of her stuff from yesterday. So, boy, I love that you guys are doing the pictures. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much. We're excited to see what happens even after camp is over. So let's go ahead and look at our schedule for today. We're going to keep the same schedule. Remember, the times don't matter. We just put those in there, but we're not going by those very much. And let's go ahead and start camp. So is everyone ready for Reveille?
Oh.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we today are so excited to introduce you to a friend of Susan's and myself. We both know, and I think we're going to skip the video, Susan, and we'll just actually let me give her a little introduction and then we'll unshare. So we are going to be talking to Ranger Jen today. I met Ranger Jen 2 years ago, right after we started our National Parks Expedition Challenge. And she has been a helper to us for the last, well, I guess just about 1 year and 3/4. And we've worked with her quite a lot, and we've visited her several times. And Ranger Jen, welcome, welcome, welcome to our event today. We are so glad that you are here. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, Ranger Jen, and then we'll just have some conversation. So first of all, how did you get to become a ranger at the National Mall?
Well, hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited to see all of you. So how did I get to be a ranger here? So I knew pretty much, I happened to watch some of yesterday's camp. And by the way, I'm sorry I missed all the cool food because it looks like you all have been eating well. And I'm really sorry I'm missing out on that part. But I heard your ranger yesterday talk about a field trip that she went on. I didn't exactly go on a field trip that inspired me, but my 5th grade teacher got me all excited about history. And after 5th grade, I knew that I wanted to do something in history. And so, you know, I talked about it a lot, and my parents put up with me and took me to visit a lot of national parks, particularly the ones that dealt with history. So I grew up in the East Coast. We'd go to Philadelphia, we'd go to Boston, we'd go to Washington. I'd get to see all of those historic places. And almost every time we went there, I'm sure this is something you people can't relate to at all, my dad would totally embarrass me and go up to the park ranger and say, yeah, I see that, Michael, you agree, yes, would say, how can my daughter get a job doing what you're doing? And so that happened far too many times. And every time I want to complain about it, I look at the hat I'm wearing and the shirt I'm wearing with my badge on it. And I think, okay, if my dad didn't embarrass me all those times, maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I consider myself pretty lucky to have a job that I enjoy so much. And it lets me talk about history and be in a historic place. And I've been on the National Mall in DC for over 20 years now, pretty much because there's so much going on. There are so many people to talk to, and there are so many different places. So when I was in college, I went to a school in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So I was right near the battlefield in Gettysburg, and I used to go there and help out as a volunteer. And they tell an amazing story, but that's what they talk about, the Civil War, all the time. And where I am, I get to talk about George Washington. I get to talk about Abraham Lincoln. I get to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. I get to talk about the Vietnam War, which is not my favorite thing to talk about, but it's one of those, I mean, we have so many different things to talk about. And so I really like the variety of things I get to do on the mall. So that's what got me there.
Well, Jen, that's exciting. And I know you love these things because anytime we start talking, it always comes back to all the places there. Can I put you on the spot? Is there a favorite? So
Of my spots?
Yes.
So yeah, I think my favorite memorial is one that not a lot of people know about, is the memorial to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It sits kind of off the beaten path and not a lot of people go to see it, but it's got such a great story to tell. It's got waterfalls, which make it really pretty. And it's got just so many different stories that I really like to talk about. So I think that one is my favorite, although I have my moments. It's not my favorite place to hang out all day long, to stand at the Lincoln Memorial, but I love telling the story of that building too. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's like picking your favorite kid. I don't think you can really do it.
Well, you can, but you just can't tell them.
Oh, okay.
And the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial has a dog there.
Yep. Really fun.
So do you have some pictures to share with us today? Share your screen.
I have way too many pictures to share, so I may have.
Okay, you have about 15 minutes. You can share as much as you want to.
Okay.
And we'll watch the chat window. Kids, if you have a question, if you'll put it in the chat window, raising your hand is a little hard for us to see because we're going to be sharing the screen. But if you just put it in the chat window, we will pick it up there.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is if you move your mouse up to the top of your screen, there's some buttons you can click on to change how you're looking at the presentation. You might want to put it in the speaker view today so that you can see Ranger Jen's pictures, because she's got some amazing pictures to show.
Did you say we're going to use chat?
Yeah, so we'll monitor the chat for you.
Okay. So here's the National Mall. I like to square that away first, because a lot of times when you hear the word mall, you're probably thinking of something else, right? You guys are all muted, but you're probably thinking about where am I going shopping and where am I getting a new pair of sneakers, right? And so we like to make sure we're all on the same page that the National Mall isn't a place to go shopping. It's called the mall because way back when Washington, D.C. was first getting started, it saved this space right in the middle of downtown as a big open space, which is another word. That's what the word mall really means. If you think about it, you go to a shopping mall, it's a big space. It's just got lots of little stores in it. But our mall is a big open space in the middle of the city where we can have all kinds of people doing all kinds of things. So even in just this picture, you can see some of our museums, which maybe if you've been to Washington, you've gotten to visit some of the Smithsonian museums. They're over here. The triangle on top, this one. Oh, I'm going to tell you more than you want to know about this one. But yeah, this is a place where people will come and play kickball sometimes after work. People can ride their bikes on these paths here. They can visit memorials like this one, which is for World War II. Lots of different things to come and see and do. And
Ranger Jen, we have a question already, if that's okay. They want to know, Gerard wants to know what the building is with the triangle on top.
This one here?
Yeah.
Big tall one. Yeah, that's the monument to George Washington. I think that's what I'm going to get to next. I'm going to tell you more than you want to know about it. This is our logo. I'm sure you've told them all about this, right?
Well, we've not done a lot of it, but Yosemite did. Anastasia, Ranger Anastasia told us about it.
Very good. So all of our 400 plus national parks, we all have the same uniform and we all have the same symbol, and it represents all of our parks, which is very cool. So here's the man, George Washington, who picked DC, where the city is. He said this should be the capital city. So he pretty much decides to build Washington, DC. And because he did so much as our first president and winning the Revolutionary War, and then helping with the Constitution, they say we should build a monument to George Washington right in the middle of the city so that we don't forget about him. And they decide to have a contest. And the person who won the contest to design a monument for George Washington, this is the winning design. So I don't know if you remember, back to this, what your big tall building with the triangle on top, and then this. Do they look alike? Do you think they look very similar? Thumbs up, thumbs down, huh? Not so much, huh? So here's the deal. This guy who won this contest, this was the design they picked. And it was gonna cost $1 million back in the 1800s. And so they needed to raise the money, but they couldn't raise enough money. And they decide to start building it, even though they don't have all the money. And so what do you think's gonna happen? Are they going to be able to get more money? Their thought was people will see it getting taller and taller, and then they'll give us more money. But here's what happens. No more money. And it'll sit like this for almost 25 years in the middle of Washington, D.C. And imagine, we're building this to remember George Washington. You all know, right? First president. He picks the city. And this is the monument that we build to honor him. It's kind of sad. And we get to the time where we're celebrating the fact that the United States has been around for 100 years, and people are starting to say, you know, we really need to finish this, or we need to start again, or we need to do something. We can't, this is embarrassing. We can't leave this here. And so they will finally get the money so that they are able to finish building. And now when we look at our finished monument up close, do y'all see about a third of the way up where the color changes? So anywhere in Washington that you can see this monument, you can see that color change. This is the old part. On the bottom, when they go back to finish building, they can't get rock from the same quarry, and it's a slightly different color. So this part's all the same kind of rock, but a little bit different color. So the story of our monument is visible right from the outside of it. For those of you who like numbers, it's 555 feet, 5 1/8 inches up to the very tippy top here at the Washington Monument. And one of the things when we're open that you can do is take an elevator ride up to the top. It takes 70 seconds to get up to the top. And there are windows on each side so that you can look out. I think that's what I have for you. Yes, here you go. This is if we're looking out the north window. Hopefully you recognize this tiny little white house that you see from the top of the Washington Monument. Very cool. Yay. Yes. Oh, you all have Washington connections. I love it. So yeah, this is the view looking north into Washington. If you guys have ever seen them light the Christmas tree on the National Mall, it's actually the ellipse. That's the tree they use right there. But there's the president's house, the White House there, and all the buildings around the city. Michael just mentioned the Capitol. This is the view looking east. So if you're looking out the windows to the east, here's our National Mall, why we use the word mall. There's the Capitol building. Here are some of our Smithsonian museums. That's natural history. Everybody loves that. You get to see the dinosaurs and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm sure Miss Dacia loves natural history and all that sciencey stuff. Yes. Over here is Air and Space, where you get to see all the airplanes and things. So that's really fun. So this is the east view, to stop and think. Looking south out the south windows, perhaps you recognize this, the Jefferson Memorial right there. It's just getting its roof all cleaned up. And so the scaffolding, they say, is going to be coming down. But if you were visiting us this summer, you would see scaffolding, that stuff that people climb on all around. And then this is our tidal basin. This is where all our famous cherry trees are, all along the tidal basin. This is our Potomac. If you fly to Washington, you might come in through Reagan National Airport, and that's the place right here. Sometimes I have pictures, and I get planes coming in and out, but It's never very quiet on the National Mall. There's always something happening. What else? Let's go to my favorite view, I think, the West View. And y'all probably recognize the Lincoln Memorial at the end there, the reflecting pool. That's not actually a pool. It's there to reflect the monuments, and it's not really very clean, so you don't want to get into it. And this is our Potomac River and the bridge into Virginia. So that's a quickie view if you were at 500 feet up in the Washington Monument. Oh, it's a really cool tour. Daisha, you've done that tour, right?
I have done, yes.
Yeah.
You tell them, unless you're going to tell it later, but there was no water in that earlier this year.
The reflecting pool? Yeah, I believe they drained it to clean it, which they do a couple of times a year. And I think maybe it took a little longer than they expected this year. But so a lot of times I spend a lot of time out on field trips with students when they come to visit the National Mall, and everybody wants to like put their hands in there or put their feet in there. And it's not very clean. And one of my friends loves to tell people that if you were to put your foot in there and your foot got squishy in the mud, that's not exactly mud you're stepping in, because
Ew.
all the ducks and the geese like to use that as kind of a bathtub and more. And so when they drain it a couple of times a year, it's to get all the gunk out of it, because it's a reflecting pool. It's not meant for us to swim in, but it's also meant to be clear enough that we can reflect and see the monuments and their reflections. So yeah, that's an important piece. Here's my Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, and this is an amazing shot because there are no people in it. And I think I probably brought some really old pictures, as I usually do, because there's some great pictures of constructing the memorials when they were building them. This one is built in between 1914 and 1922. So a couple of years, we're going to be having a big 100th birthday party for the Lincoln Memorial. And here's a really neat construction shot. I love this one. You can see the columns going up. Y'all probably are smart enough to figure out how they built all this stuff. Can you see the columns on the ground? I think these are little pieces that are going to end up on part of this part here. And I often, you know, I'm out with students a lot and people are like, oh, I don't want to have to climb up all of those steps to go up to the Lincoln Memorial. You know, I don't want to do all that. But here's the reason wrong way. Here's the reason we have all those steps. Look at how deep the foundation is underneath this building. If you're going to build this big, heavy statue for President Lincoln, you need it to be on a solid basis. And this land was once part of the Potomac River. So this is filled in land where they took, they made the river deeper, dug out all the dirt, and then filled it in to create more land. So this was a big deal to build this, this memorial to Lincoln in this spot. But when you see that view, you see why it's the perfect spot, because as you look down that pool, it just seems to fit right there. Here's our statue of Lincoln. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but his hands do two different things. One hand is open, one hand is in a fist. And they did that on purpose because they wanted us to remember that President Lincoln was very stressed during the time he was president because there was a war going on. And so that fist reminds us of how stressed and tired he was from working so hard. But the open hand reminds us that he also had a very good sense of humor, and he loved to tell jokes, and he loved to have his kids play. And sometimes it didn't matter if he was in a meeting, his kids would come and play anyway. So the Caps sweater on Lincoln, I think it was probably photoshopped. I don't think we actually put it on there. If that's what we're talking about. I think so.
Jen, he is sitting on something that I didn't know until you pointed this out to me last time we were in DC.
Oh yeah. So when they built this memorial, they talked a lot, they were thinking a lot about the fact that President Lincoln put the country back together after a civil war, or the fact that he fought really hard the Civil War so that the country would stay united. So the big theme of this memorial when they built it was all about unity and reunion. And so when we think about symbols of our country, y'all probably are thinking of things that represent our country. One of the more popular ones is our American flag. And perhaps if you look very closely, it's really hard to see, but this thing that is draped behind his chair is meant to represent the American flag. And when you're standing next to Lincoln down here, sometimes you can see a star or a stripe to kind of give it away, but you have to be looking really closely. But I always tell students that this is a fun thing to impress your parents with over dinner, that, you know, you learn something that most people don't know, that Lincoln is sitting on the flag to remind us about how hard he fought for the country and the unity of the country. Let's see what else I have here. This is my favorite too. Love this. So the Lincoln statue is made out of 28 different pieces of marble, because when they first were building the statue, or the building, the statue part, the guy building the statue is not in Washington. He's farther away and he doesn't realize how big the building is. And so he makes a much smaller statue. Actually, that's him right down front with the hat on. And so when he brings his original model to this big building, it was really tiny. Now, it's one thing to walk up all those stairs. It's another thing to walk up all those stairs and see a little tiny statue of Abraham Lincoln. If I'm walking up all those steps, right, I want to see something spectacular. So, yeah, so he had to go back to the drawing board. He makes his statue nearly twice as big. And so he can't find a big enough piece of rock. And so it's different pieces. And here are these guys, the stonecutters, who are putting all the pieces together. And I challenge you next time you're in Washington looking at Lincoln to see if you can figure out where one piece ends and where another piece starts, because they did such a good job of putting it all together. It's really amazing. I could go on and on. Are there any other questions that anybody has? I don't know how much time you want me to spend.
Share a few more things.
Okay, see what else I got. Oh yeah, this is important. So I'm sure you all recognize who this is. This is Dr. Martin Luther King, and he came to Washington in 1963. He came to Washington many times, but he comes in 1963 as part of this event known as the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And he gives a very famous speech I'm sure you all are familiar with. It's known today as the I Have a Dream speech. And he stands on the steps at the Lincoln Memorial. And we have today now marked that spot. So when you come to visit, you can stand right in the spot where he stood. Now, what I really have to point out to you in this picture, besides Dr. King, of course, is the fact that you see some other people in this picture who might be slightly familiar to you, maybe not by name, but perhaps by what they're wearing. Check out the snazzy hat, the patch, and this guy down front with his hat. We have park rangers standing right next to Dr. Martin Luther King when he's giving his I Have a Dream speech. That just reminds us how cool our job is and how cool it is that we could possibly someday be standing in some historic spot like this. And being there right where history is happening. So this is a great spot to come visit because you can stand right there and see that spot and imagine this crowd. So Dr. King is halfway up the steps. He's standing right here in the right-hand picture, Lincoln in his shadows, and all of these people there to see. And then this is the view that he sees looking out towards the Washington Monument. You could even see, look how clear you can see the color change, even in this old black and white photo. And all the people, they think 250,000 people were on the mall that day. And they call it an amazingly peaceful day because everyone wanted to hear what these speakers had to say and take part in this day. And perhaps you all have followed the news a little bit. Congressman John Lewis, who just died last week, was one of the speakers at this event. This was a really big deal. He was the youngest speaker that day. It's pretty cool. Here's the spot on the steps where you can put your feet. So you can stand right there and imagine that view. Most of the days that we're out there, we don't see quite so many people, but that's why I like to share this picture because hopefully you can remember this when you're there and remember just what a big crowd it was that came out for that day. And in 2011, Dr. Martin Luther King got his own memorial on the National Mall. And he's right along the tidal basin. He's facing sort of where Jefferson is across the water. And they based the design for this memorial on a quote that he gave during his I Have a Dream speech. He said out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. And his idea for that was that out of really sad times, you can find hope. And so here's kind of the design of the memorial. His statue is there. Here's the mountain of despair. He's on the stone of hope, and there's a piece of the mountain missing. Looks like this piece came right out of it. And they want us to think about the fact that growing up in a time of segregation when people weren't treated fairly, Dr. King became the stone of hope for so many people after growing up in some really sad circumstances. One of the things I really like to point out to people, I ask often, is what do you notice that's missing from this statue? Not the mountain part, but even looking at a statue, do you notice anything missing? I lost my chat box. Sure, you all can see it, right? What do you see missing?
I don't see his feet.
Michael put that in the chat box too, that he noticed that he was missing his feet.
Exactly right, which is really strange in a way because we think of Dr. King as marching all the time. He was always marching. He marched across the bridge. He marched for the March on Washington. Yeah, legs and feet. And so it's really unusual that you would not have his legs there or his feet when he was using them so much for marching. One time I had somebody tell me that it didn't really matter if his feet were there because it was his words that were so important. And his words are all over this memorial. You can follow them on this wall here, and there's another wall on the other side. And it was all about, you know, the words that he spoke, which were so important to us. But part of this is we look at this memorial and we see that it almost looks like it's not finished. It almost looks like they didn't finish carving out his legs and his feet. And they wanted us to realize that maybe Dr. King didn't get to finish all of his work and that the work was left undone and that maybe not everything he wanted in his dream that he talked about has come true yet. And by looking at this and seeing there's still unfinished work, it inspires us to think about how we can help and do that. And so this was kind of the idea behind this memorial, that we think about the sadness of the past, the hope that he as an example gave to so many of us, and the fact that there's still work left to be done and we can be the ones to do it. So it's a really powerful place. And this is amazing that there are no people here because it's usually very, very popular. Yeah, Mary, you're right. He didn't get to finish his work because he died very young. He was 39 when he died. So yeah, he had a lot of work left to do, and it's just, it's out there for the rest of us to make sure we finish. So it's a really inspirational piece. Here's Thomas Jefferson's memorial. He's looking out across the way at Thomas Jefferson, at Martin Luther King. And boy, do we have some different stories going on here, because Thomas Jefferson was the one who wrote those big famous words that all men are created equal. But we know Thomas Jefferson didn't quite live up to those words because he lived on a southern plantation where slaves were doing the work. And so it's a little unusual. I'll point out something interesting to you though about these two memorials. What do you notice in Jefferson's hand? Can you tell what's in his hand?
They're looking.
Yep.
Nigel says a paper.
A paper, yes, a scroll, very good. Jump back with me across the tidal basin. What's in Dr. King's hand?
Oh, nice.
Exactly, they both have a piece of paper in it. And here's the funny thing, both of the artists, the man who made this statue was from China, and he did not ever say what that scroll of paper was. I mean, a lot of us think, oh, maybe his I Have a Dream speech, maybe, who knows, right? So it could have been any of a lot of things that Dr. King wrote. So he's got a scroll of paper. And when we get over to see Thomas Jefferson, he has a scroll of paper. And the artist here never exactly said what this paper was either. Now I see Mary and Michael suggesting the Declaration of Independence. Very good guess. That's probably what it's supposed to be. But the artist never officially said Declaration of Independence. So it leaves us thinking about it. So one day I'm standing at Martin Luther King's memorial with the scroll, and we got talking about it, and we were thinking, boy, here's Dr. King, who's fighting for civil rights, making sure everybody gets treated equally. And here's Thomas Jefferson, who wrote this very important paper that says all men are created equal. And they both have papers in their hands. Maybe they would write letters to each other. And it got us thinking about what those letters would say. Would Dr. King tell Thomas Jefferson about the fight for equality for all races and that it doesn't matter the color of your skin? Would Jefferson write about the Declaration of Independence? I mean, what would they be saying back and forth to each other? It got us really thinking about that. So that's a really fascinating conversation, that some of the littlest details in a memorial might get you thinking about some really big stuff.
So I just noticed Brinley raised her hand. Brinley, did you want to ask a question?
No, I forgot to put it down after I
okay.
figured.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think I have one more funny old picture for you. So this statue was built during World War II. This memorial was built during World War II. And it's made today, this statue is made of bronze, which is a metal. But during a war, you wouldn't have used the metal for making a statue. You would have wanted to save that to go towards the stuff you needed during the war. So the original statue of Thomas Jefferson was made of plaster, like like you would make in like an art project. And then it was painted to look bronze. And so this building was already built. Daisha, I'm going to give them a STEM question. This building is already built, and Jefferson's statue needs to get into it. How are you going to do it?
So Riley, you've got your hand up. Do you want to? How would you do it?
Use a jetpack.
Whoa. I don't even know how that works. So they're going to take down the old statue after the war is over, and they're going to put in this new bronze statue, and this building has already been built. So they have to figure out how to get it in.
Oh, Mary's suggesting take the roof off.
I know, isn't that a great idea? I would love
Yeah.
that. I've seen the roof, pop the roof and bring it down. Who said squeeze it in? Is that what you meant, to squeeze it in somehow? So here's my fun picture of the Jefferson Memorial. Here's how they got the statue in. They put him on his back and they squeezed him between the columns. And look how close he is to the columns when they get him into the building. So they can't, when they make a statue like this, they have to cast it in bronze. It has to be made all in one. They can't make it in pieces. And they squeezed him through and then propped him up. So this is 1947, which seems like a really long time ago. And it's really fun because I don't know if you all can see, but if you look really closely in this picture, you can see some of the outfits these guys are wearing. I wonder if this must be a park ranger. He's kind of got a hat like mine, doesn't he? And you can see some of the old cars in the background. It's kind of fun to see these old photos and look and kind of check it all out. So that's one of my favorite Jefferson photos.
Jen, you get to do so many fun things. Is there a possibility that we can, you can share a few of these photos that I could send them in the, in their email today, or link to them?
To these?
Yes. Or maybe a place we can find some like them?
Yeah, so the Jefferson photos are all on our website. I if I thought I could send it, I have a very hard time sending PowerPoints, and I don't have Google, so that's a pain. So if I could figure out how to do it, I would certainly do it. So let me think on it.
Okay.
How I could do it. I could definitely send you our website, which has a lot of cool photos on it too.
Well, this is absolutely great. We're going to have to stop now because we've got to get to our next thing, but can you unshare for a moment so they can all see your face again?
Sure.
So when you go to DC, you need to find her. Okay. So right between the World War II Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial, they have a ranger station. You can ask anybody, where's Ranger Jen? And they will know her.
You go, who?
No, they won't. They all know you. Because I want you to meet her because she has so many amazing stories to tell. And I wish we had so much more time to do it. But Jen, we are so thankful that you're here. I'm going to put us in for my screen, I'm going to put us in a gallery view. And we've been doing this every day. So everyone turn on your screens and get your smiles ready. Because you know I'm going to screenshot us now with Ranger Jen. So everyone's smiling. Perfect. Oh, let me do it one more time. Perfect. Jen, thank you so much for being with us today. You're welcome to hang with us if you want to, or if you need to get to work, we understand. These kids
are doing the food thing next, because that seems to be the fun time, man.
In about 5 or 6 minutes. So yeah, hang with us while we do some cool stuff.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you all have a great rest of your summer. And yeah, look me up if you're in DC.
All right. Thank you so much, Jen. Sure. So we're actually going to go ahead and go to our lashing activity. So I'm going to change my screen. So I made some changes last night to this design. One of the reasons I made a change is I didn't have the really strong wood like some of you have. So when I tried to build a chair, I failed. And I don't want any of you to fall. So we're going to talk about a few different things you can do. One is if you want to build the chair and you already know how to lash, we've already taught you that, you're going to take 3 sticks and you're going to put them in what we call a tripod. And then you're going to lash around all of these areas. And then once it's lashed together, you're going to have a triangle on the top. You're going to connect your twine here, here, and here, and then put your trash bag or your bag from a grocery store or some burlap, and then sit it down, and it's going to sit like a camp chair. Now mine would be very small because I do not have the larger sticks. But something else, Susan decided yesterday that she wanted to make something even cooler. So Susan, can you show us your beautiful star that you lashed together? Very nice.
And this one was tricky because the angles are not those 90-degree angles that we talked about yesterday. These are smaller angles, and so I had to kind of squeeze it together as I was doing my lashing so that it would stay the right angle.
Right. So if you were just to look at that for a moment, I'm going to put you in speaker view, Susan. Hopefully they can see it. But look at those angles. If you're in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, you're going to notice that you have some obtuse angles, some acute angles. You don't have any parallel lines.
Nope.
But you do have supplementary angles. So one of the sticks going straight across, you're going to see an angle. And then on the other side, you're going to see the angle. If you add those two together, you're going to get 180 degrees. And those are real important to know because when the people are working on the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, they're working with angles in math. So what I'm going to encourage you to do with this is to finish off your lashing somehow. I think tonight I'm going to finish and make mine a little raft. So think of a design that you want to use and that you could create using your camp skills of lashing. Now, my husband and I plan to go camping in the very, very, very near future. So I think that I will lash a real stool, and your little campsite that we have that Susan made for you to put pictures, I will put my pictures of my finished product, and I want you to put your pictures there too. Okay? Susan, since Jen is hanging on because there's food coming up, can you go ahead and take us?
Absolutely.
Chef Susan?
Absolutely. Are you guys ready? Riley, I think you're having way too much fun with your lashing. let's switch over. I'll show you the recipe first, just like we've been doing, and then I'll switch my camera so that you guys can see all my pieces and parts, and we will have a lovely snack. And Daisha, I'm excited that we saved the tasty snack, or the tastiest snack for today.
Absolutely. So,
This is
Brindley,
one of my favorites.
Brindley, do you have a question? I see your hand up.
So before we start on today's food activity, so so yesterday when we were making the fruit pies, we couldn't figure out a way that we could warm it up and be it toasty because we didn't have a snacker. So we found a different way this morning, and we took the sandwich and we took some parchment paper and we folded it in a way that it could fit in the toaster, and we toasted it that way.
Perfect. Nicely done. Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that, because that's not something that we talked about yesterday. Good job with that. All right, so we did our camp skills. So today's snack is how to make s'mores. This is probably something that you have done before, but I have to tell you, since we're inside, I had to get creative about how to make them, because I don't have a campfire in my house, and I'm hoping that the rest of you don't either. So I have some options for you today for how you can make these right now today without having a campfire. Your ingredients are chocolate bars, graham crackers, and marshmallows. Although some of you might have discovered that you can do other things besides chocolate bars. Like have you ever made a s'more with a Reese's peanut butter cup?
Ooh.
That's pretty delicious too. So you can get kind of creative. Please, 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 anytime you're gonna do anything that's warm, make sure that you get help from an adult. So if you're gonna do campfire, you need an adult to help you out with that. If you're gonna do some of the options today, I still want you to have some adult supervision just to make sure that you're safe. We're gonna open our graham cracker package and take out the graham crackers. We have to break those graham crackers in half, and we're gonna roast our marshmallow. And I have a way that I'll show you that I'm gonna do mine. And then you wanna wait for them to be toasted that light golden brown color, no burning your marshmallows. And then it's pretty easy. We put our chocolate on and we top it with another graham cracker, and then you get to eat. So here, I'm gonna stop my share and I will show you my supplies, and here are some of the options that I thought of to make it work for today. Now I have a toaster oven. You can see part of it right over here. Oh, and you're seeing a little bit of my green screen showing through, but that's okay. So I'm gonna warm up my toaster oven so that I can use it to warm up my my marshmallows. I thought that might be a good option for me.
Susan, can I just remind you kids, because I just got a private message. If you click at the top of your screen and click on the word speaker view, you can see her screen very large on your, or her pictures very large on your screen.
There we go. So the other option that I have for you today, guys, if you don't have the ability to warm up your marshmallows, you can still make s'mores. Here's what I would do. I have a pair of scissors that I use in the kitchen. Daisha, do you have kitchen shears that you use?
I do have those.
Okay, and if you don't have scissors, you could always use just a butter knife. And I think that if you cut your marshmallow like this and get some little strips of marshmallow, they'll be thin enough and they'll be kind of sticky, and they will actually stick onto your graham cracker just like this. And I think that that might work kind of nicely. Now, since I have my toaster oven right here warming up for me, I think I might try putting this into the toaster. So I'm gonna put it on the tray and I'll stick it in there and see if I can get them to melt a little bit. But if you can't, just go ahead and build a cold s'more. That should work too. After you get your marshmallows warmed up, or if you're not warming them up after you're ready to go, then all you need to do is take that chocolate that you've got, open it up. And you know what? I had the weirdest thing happen, you guys. I went shopping to do this, and at my grocery store, I couldn't find any of the normal size Hershey bars. They were all gone. The entire store was empty. I wonder if that means kids are making s'mores all over the United States right now. So we're gonna have marshmallow and we're gonna have chocolate, and then we put it the other half of our graham cracker on top. And I would recommend that you don't eat it right away. Let it cool a little bit so that you don't burn your mouth. Oh, Brinley, you're a girl of my own heart. I just saw that Reese's go past. Good choice. So that's how you make a s'more, right? So, oh, mine is looking really nice and toasty. See if I can
Looks
pull
like
this
people
out.
are already eating them, Susan. I see pictures of mouths chewing and fingers being bit.
Awesome. So mine actually, it worked really nicely in my toaster oven. Let me show you my yummy marshmallows. See how golden brown they got in that toaster oven? So now if I put my chocolate on top, it's gonna melt all nicely and gooey. Jen, does that make you a little hungry for a snack now?
She had to step off and go back to work, but she said it looked delicious.
There we go. So there's our last camp snack. I hope you enjoy eating that. You might find that you need a paper towel that's kind of wet to clean up the mess. I see Riley already is dripping with marshmallow.
So two things, Susan, and this may sound gross to you guys, but I sometimes add a slice of strawberry in mine because I love
Ooh.
strawberry and chocolate. I like chocolate covered strawberries. The other thing is I don't have a toaster oven, but I do have a microwave. So if you were to put your marshmallow on a little plate and put it in the microwave for like 3 seconds, it will get very big. And then it will come back down to size, and then you can smash it really well within your graham crackers.
So Michael, is that what you did with yours? I saw you putting your thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mary, you've got William with you and you guys are both enjoying some s'mores. Fantastic. All right. So I think I need to take a bite. Take it away, Daisha.
Well, I'm going to let you take a bite, and I'm going to go to our science lesson for today, which I'm really excited about. And our science lesson today is all about bubbles. And the reason I chose bubbles is because at the National Mall, when you go there, there's so much open space, and you see a lot of kids that are just walking around and smiling and laughing. And it just reminds me of a beautiful day out with children and your family and a good time to blow some bubbles. So I'm using the following materials. I'm going to be using liquid soap here. I'm using Dawn. I'm going to use a container of water. And then that's all you need. But I have found a way to make the bubbles even bigger and even more colorful. You can use a little bit of Karo syrup, which is corn syrup, or you can use some bubble solution or glycerin. So I'm going to show you a movie, and I hope it works, where I did this in my backyard, and I want to see if you can see this. Hey everyone, today is day 3 of National Parks Camp, and we are in DC at the National Mall. Our science for today is bubbles, how to create bubbles. So I have a couple of recipes for you, but I'm going to try one that I like. In my container here, I have about 6 cups of warm water. To that, I could add about 1/4 cup of Karo syrup, or I could add glycerin, which you can find at your grocery store or pharmacy. I'm going to add that. And I'm also going to add a little bit of Dawn detergent liquid. All right, once I have that in there, I'm going to use my bubble wand and just stir that up. Now, obviously, you can just use bubbles in water, but we're going to see what happens if you add another agent into that, whether it was your Karo syrup or your glycerin. I'm going to, first of all, use some small ones and just see what we can tell about our bubbles. So we have bubbles, and if you get a little closer there, cameraman. They're pretty good and they last. So let's see if I can
just to make sure I did this right, a little bit more dishwashing liquid. And I'm going to use my large bubble wand and see what happens. So I'm going to put all of it in there, and I have the bubble wand down. Okay, little and slow.
So I'm going to stop it there because I had a lot of failure with this. I think what happened is I did not put enough dishwashing liquid in it. So I'm going to show you what happens when you do put enough dishwashing liquid in it. And look at these big bubbles.
Using different materials. Now some people bubbles. Can't wait to see what you create.
Watch these bubbles.
Whoa, those are huge, Daisha.
So these are up to 9 feet. And the wand that's used for this is a huge piece of wire that they pulled together in a circle. And then they also use just strings. So if you look at my poles over to the side and the strings, and this is in slow motion. Now this is a professional bubbleologist. Watch him.
And what we can do with them. And so I travel around, people fly me out, and I make bubbles for all different audiences. My goal is to get maybe half of these kids to go home and practice and try their own tricks.
So that is a real career that you can have called a bubbleologist, which I think would be a really cool job. So I'm going to go ahead and make mine now. So if you brought bubble stuff, you can do it with me. I've got my container of water. I'm going to add some Dawn dishwashing liquid. Any dishwashing liquid works, guys, but I like Dawn and Joy the best. It seems to have a little bit better consistency. And then I'm going to add a little bit of corn syrup. Now the corn syrup is going to make the bubble thicker. I'm going to use one of my lashing sticks to stir this up. And I'm going to use a small wand to blow a few bubbles since I'm sort of in a tight place here. Now, if you look at these carefully, and I'm going to try to do this without blowing anything up here, I want you to see if you see the colors in these. Well, let's try this again. Let me see if I do it. Nope, I'm having trouble here. If you added your glycerol or your corn syrup, your bubbles are going to have bigger colors. They're going to have more colors. Let me try it one more time. Oh, I know what I can do. So I hope this doesn't blind you, but I'm going to try to do it through my phone. So I can't wait to see some pictures of you blowing some bubbles outside, playing around with the consistency of bubbles, understanding the science behind those bubbles. And because bubbles are just fun. Now, thinking about blowing bubbles on the National Mall, there's something else on the National Mall that's very cool. And, but they're not bubbles. I think they have to do with a tree. Susan, take it away for Susan's Corner.
Yay! So this, you know, guys, every day I've shared books with you, and today I have a book that I want to share with you that is a really special one. It's one that I just discovered. But before we do that, I wanted to take us back to Tuesday, our first day together. I shared this book right here, and this is The Camping Trip that Changed America. And this is a historical book. This is a true story about how Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir got together and established the national parks. So that was one of my favorites. And then yesterday, I shared one with you that's more of a modern, realistic one. This one is taking place, the characters in here, they could be your friends. And these could be kids that are going on a camping trip now, right now, right? So today's book that I have for you is one that is a historical book, and it's a biography. A biography is a story of a person and a person's life. And this biography happens to be about a woman whose name is Eliza. And it is about the cherry trees that Jen showed you an overhead picture of where all the cherry trees are around the Jefferson Memorial on the National Mall. The cherry trees that we have came from Japan. And this is the story of Eliza, the woman who actually got them brought to our country. So if you can't see me, remember you can click up on speaker view so that you can see mine as big as you need it to be, so you can see the pictures. And I've got my camera in a different spot today, hopefully so you can see a little bit better with maybe a little bit less glare. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that, guys. Does that look okay? Riley, no, you can't see it? All right, good. So this is called Eliza's Cherry Trees. Japan's gift to America. Sometimes a person with a good idea can make a big difference. Eliza Skidmore was one of those people. She changed America's capital, Washington, D.C. Eliza and her brother grew up in her mother's boarding house in Washington. It was a lively place. Eliza met many politicians and travelers who stayed there. Eliza's mother was even friends with President Abraham Lincoln and his wife. Eliza got to visit them and play at the White House. One of Eliza's best subjects at school was geography. She liked studying the world and the countries on it. Eliza loved Washington, but she wanted to visit the real places on her maps. Eliza wanted to see the world. In those days, few people could travel away from home. Eliza was lucky. Her mother took her to Europe when she was a teenager, and she saw new, fascinating places. And if you look real carefully, even if you had the book in front of you, you'd have to look real carefully. These are sketches of different places around the world. So this is the London Bridge, this is the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and this is the Colosseum in Rome. So these are the places that she got to go because her mom took her on trips. In 1873, Eliza went away to college. She liked writing and she was good at it. She was starting to feel grown up and she liked being independent. Women at that time had very few choices. Eliza had different ideas. She didn't think she had to stay at home and be a wife or be a teacher or a nurse like many other women. Eliza wanted to keep traveling, so she had to find a way. After college, Eliza started writing articles for the newspaper. She worked hard and made good money. Soon, Eliza was paying her own way for all her travels. When she was 26 years old, Eliza bought tickets to faraway Alaska. Few tourists had ever been there. Eliza wrote reports for the newspapers back home. She loved sharing the fascinating things she saw, such as huge glaciers, spouting whales, and the native people. Eliza even wrote a book. It was the first guidebook of Alaska. When Eliza went back to Washington, it wasn't long before she started thinking about traveling again. She decided to visit her older brother who was working in Japan. Eliza sailed across the ocean. In Japan, she rode on trains, carriages, bumpy rickshaws. She climbed mountains and ate strange food and visited ancient temples. Everything was so different. She studied Japanese art and learned to speak Japanese. She fell in love with Japan and its people. Eliza especially loved Japanese gardens. Eliza's favorite plants, by far, were the Japanese cherry trees. Eliza called them the most beautiful thing in the world. Thousands of trees were planted in parks and along the riverbanks. When they bloomed, the trees became clouds of pink blossoms. As the petals drifted down, it was like pink snowfall. The Japanese people loved the cherry trees as their national symbol. Crowds gathered for picnics under the trees, and people wrote poems and painted pictures to honor those sakura. When Eliza came back home, she wrote a book about Japan. She wanted to share her love of Japan with other Americans, and she wanted the nations of Japan and America to be friends. Even though she was always thinking about her next journey, Eliza loved coming home to Washington, D.C.
She was proud of America's growing capital and wanted it to look as beautiful as any city in the world. She thought about the muddy land from a recent construction project in the swampy area around the riverbank. Eliza had a wonderful idea. She remembered the beautiful cherry trees in Japan, and she thought that's what Washington needs. Eliza told the man in charge of the Washington parks, a park ranger probably, about the wonderful cherry trees. She showed him photographs that she'd taken, and she told him about her plan to plant hundreds of them down by the water. He said no. He believed that they didn't need any different kind of tree in Washington. But Eliza knew that sometimes when you have a good idea, you have to keep trying. So she waited, and when a new parks man was hired, she told him about her good idea. He too said no. Eliza kept traveling. She also met with friends who loved to travel. Some of these friends had started National Geographic Society. The society was for people who wanted to learn more about the world. Eliza was the first woman to have an important job there, and she helped the society grow. She wrote many articles and books. Eliza made more trips to Japan, Alaska, and Europe. She explored India, China, Russia, and Java, an island of Indonesia. Eliza also became a photographer. Not many women did that either. She took pictures for the Smithsonian Institution and recorded people and places that Americans had never seen. But Eliza didn't forget about the cherry trees, and she didn't give up. She kept trying for more than 20 years. Every time a new man was hired to be in charge of the Parks Department, Eliza went to tell him about her idea, and each one said no. In 1909, William Howard Taft had just been elected president. Eliza had another good idea. She knew that sometimes people in politics could help get things done. She wrote a letter to the president's wife, Mrs. Taft. Eliza told Mrs. Taft about her plan to make Washington more beautiful with the lovely cherry trees. She was afraid the answer would be no again. But Mrs. Taft loved the idea, and with the help of Mr. Takamine, a generous Japanese scientist, they had the trees sent from Japan. Now you might think that that's the end of the story, but wait. Look at this picture and you can see they're burning something. Everyone is happily awaiting for the trees to arrive. Eliza imagined the beautiful pink clouds of blossoms that would soon be blooming in Washington. In January of 1910, 2,000 cherry trees arrived. They were given as a gift from Japan's capital city, Tokyo. But there was a problem. The trees had diseases and bugs. The inspectors were afraid they would make American trees sick, and the president agreed. He signed an order for all 2,000 cherry trees to be burned. Eliza was so disappointed. She was also afraid that the Japanese people would be offended, but the mayor of Tokyo said that they understood. He even joked about George Washington chopping down a cherry tree. New trees were carefully grown in Japan, and in March of 1912, 3,000 new trees arrived. They were inspected and declared healthy. On March 27, 1912, there was a small ceremony at the planting of the first 2 cherry trees. Eliza watched as her longtime dream was finally coming true. Over the years, the trees grew, and every spring they bloomed. People began gathering to enjoy them, to celebrate their beauty, just like in Japan. Eliza was happy to see how they helped turn Washington, D.C. into one of the most beautiful cities in the world. As she grew older, Eliza remembered all the places she had visited. She believed that all the countries in the world could live together in peace, and she spent her later years working for that. She knew that sometimes when you have a good idea, you just have to keep trying for a long time. Eliza was very happy that her lovely Japanese cherry trees in Washington, D.C. became an international symbol of peace and friendship. And in our slides for today, if I can switch over, or Daisha, do you want to show the slides?
I will. You keep talking.
I have a picture for you. In my book, the picture is a painting, but I found a picture for you last night as I was looking of, there's the Jefferson Memorial surrounded by those beautiful pink cherry blossoms. And this happens every spring, and millions of people come to Washington, D.C. just to see those cherry blossoms.
Thank you, Susan. that leads right into our STEM challenge. So you can see some of those cherry blossoms again. The water that surrounds Washington, D.C., or the mall area, especially the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, is called the tidal basin. We have some problems with the tidal basin. It's a beautiful place where we reflect and we think about the history of our nation, but because of the high tide, the water is flooding the sidewalks surrounding the tidal basin, and people can't get through the areas to go visit the cherry trees. Another thing that happens is the water erodes down underneath those trees and it messes up the roots. So there's a huge problem here. We want to keep the cherry trees. I mean, it took a long time to get them there. We want to make sure that people can visit safely. So your challenge is to build a model of this tidal basin, this water, and then find out a plan or devise a plan to stop the flooding. Now, I will tell you that Susan and I have been working on this for a couple months. The National Mall, National Parks, really wants this problem to be solved. They need to get this fixed, and they're spending lots of money to try to get people to come up with ideas. And I told them that we have kids all around the country that could possibly come up with the ideas. So I want you to think about those, and I want you to come up with a plan, and then I want you to upload a picture of your plan to your campground. Brindley, hands up, I see that. What do you need?
So, another thing that a lot of, why kids are the best reason to get stuff figured out is because kids don't overthink, and grown-ups overthink sometimes, and kids have the best ideas because they think in a way that other people who don't think that way.
Susan, can you please capture that quote? I'm going to use that on all of our other camps. Brindley, that is brilliant. You're right. Kids don't have as many experiences as adults, but they also are not afraid to fail. So they might try something and it not work, and they'll try again. So you're absolutely right. We want you to share your ideas with us. That is such a great piece.
Good thinking, Brindley.
Yes, I will tell you that Susan and I have done a lot of work together, and this is probably one of our most fun collaborations, is to be together with you guys and to share something that we love dearly, which is the national parks. So it's that time where we're going to sing our ending song, and I need you all to sing with me. So turn on your microphones, unmute yourself. Here we go. Day is done, darkness comes from the hills, from the lake, from the sky. All is well, safely rest. God is nigh. Well, I don't know if we'll win any contests with that, but it makes my heart happy that you guys all shared. I would love to get a really great photo of all of us. If you want to turn on your screens again so we can tell you how much we enjoyed being with you. We hope to do more of these. We hope to do more things with camping. We'll let you know how that goes, but we're just very happy that you're here. So everyone put your beautiful face up to the camera so we can get that one last beautiful smile.
Got it. Get her close. Smile.
That is lovely. Parents, I will send one more email this afternoon. We will keep the campsite live, so you can keep adding photos, and we would love to see some more problems solved, because as Brindley said, kids can do it. Yes, Michael.
Now, before I have my phone right here. I actually made a song, and I do not have the email information. So I would like for you to send it to me so I can send you it.
Whoever's getting your emails at the house that registered you has my email. Will you please send it to me?
That's my mom. She's not here.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out. I'll get it to you, okay?
Okay.
That's great. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon and a great weekend, and get outside. Bye.
Snap.
Thank you for the carpenter. So
Bye.